Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer. This recording is not intended to be utilized as medical advice or a medical diagnosis. If you think you're in need of medical attention or treatment, please seek it immediately. This recording will also contain sensitive subjects such as binging and purging, weight, and depression. Please listen at your own discretion and do what you think is best for you.
Okay. Hello, guys. Hi, this is Jacqueline. Welcome to the podcast. This podcast, we're going to be talking about the meaning of happiness. Just kidding. I'm not going to get that woo today, but we are going to talk about what makes you actually happy. What creates happiness for you? Is it really just your body and what you look like, or, what truly makes you feel happy? And it's going to be, a short and sweet podcast per usual, but I think it's going to be an impactful one for understanding what makes you feel joy. Firstly, I just want to say, if you love this podcast and you've been a long-time listener, hello, hi, thank you, and you've found this podcast really helpful in your own bulimia recovery journey, please give this podcast a rating and review. It not only helps me out by letting the podcast platforms that you're listening to on, let them know that this podcast is worthwhile listening to, but it also helps the podcast get seen more, because then podcast platforms will show my podcast more the more ratings and reviews it has, and it will reach people that are struggling with bulimia who are looking for content, and this podcast will be shown or recommended to them. So please give it a rating and review if you find that it's helpful, or if you're a new time listener and after the show you're like, wow, that was really helpful, then you can give it a rating and review then if you see fit to do so. And if you are new here, in this podcast we talk about bulimia recovery. I struggled with bulimia for 4 years and disordered eating for much longer than that. If you listen to this podcast and if you listen to this episode and it really hits home for you, I offer both one-to-one coaching and affordable online group coaching programs to help support you in your recovery and break up with bulimia for good. You can find all of that in the show notes below or by going to bingebreakers.com. I'm also on Instagram at bingebreakers_bulimia if you want to watch funny reels of mine and more like just casual stuff and helpful posts for daily content, then you can go there. Okay. So I'm going to start at the podcast by referring back to a post I made on Instagram, but I'm just going to start off by a simple question that I want to ask you, listener, wherever you are, whether you're walking or you're cleaning your house or you are trying not to binge and purge, whatever you're doing right now. Think about this question. When was the last time you felt truly happy? Just think about it for a second. And I know it's a weird question to ask, but I asked this in a group coaching call the other day because this person was discussing with me how they were kind of scared to let their eating disorder go. They were scared to let go of restriction. They were worried about gaining weight, about being at a heavier weight, and worried about feeling miserable because the last time they were at that heavy weight, they felt truly awful. And so they were really worried and scared to move past that fear and go into recovery, be all in on it, and let go of restriction because of that. And then I asked them, when was the last time you felt happy? And they were taken aback by the question. They were kind of like, what do you mean? I said, just when's the last moment that you remember in the past week feeling happy? And they took a second, and then they said on a Zoom call a week ago when they started giggling with a coworker about something stupid going on. I don't even know what the story was, but they started giggling with a coworker. And they said something funny happened, and it was on a Zoom call with a friend. And so I said, well, that's interesting. Why was that? So why did that make you feel happy? And she said, well, it's because of the connection that I felt with this person, especially it being a new job. It felt nice to connect with someone, and the giggling was just kind of fun. It felt enjoyable. And I said, exactly. That had nothing to do with what you look like, did it? That last time you felt true, pure joy and happiness and fun. And when you start giggling like that, you feel like a little kid. Like every time I get to laugh, truly laugh, like burst out laughing and have something that really tickles my humor, I feel so elated, so happy, so joyful. It's just pure, I don't know what to call it, but just pure bliss that I feel when I'm giggling with someone. It makes me feel like a kid again. And this person, she was like, "You're right." And afterwards, after this call, she emailed me and she said that question, because we talked about other things, we talked about fear of restriction and body image and stuff like that. But she said the thing that rang home most to her was the question of when was the last time you felt happy? And the last time she felt happy was so surprising that her eating disorder all the time tells her the most important thing is losing weight. The most important thing is maintaining this weight. The most important thing is looking this way. And yet, when I asked her that happiness question, it had nothing to do with how she looked. And I know some of you guys listening, you're going to say, well, being overweight and being at an unhealthy weight is going to impact your life quality and it's going to make you feel miserable, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that there isn't a point where you can reach both ends of the spectrum where you can be at a weight that is too light or too big, that it is negatively impacting your life. But even at those weights, I would argue still that weight does not impact your happiness. Thoughts and experiences are usually what give you true joy. And even when you are experiencing happiness, I would argue that's not really actual happiness. But let's say you're experiencing joy from your weight. You're not necessarily experiencing it because your weight is X. You don't think, oh, I weigh 150 pounds, happy. You think thoughts about that weight that create the happiness. You think thoughts of validation. You make it mean that you are so much better because of that weight, or that you've accomplished something. Or if you maybe were at a weight that was very unhealthy, either too thin or too big, and it was impacting your health, when you get to a weight that's bigger, then it is something of, I feel so much better now. It's not so much about the weight, it's how you feel that's important. Happiness really doesn't have much to do with the number on the scale or what you look like. It has a lot more to do with what's going on inside your head and what you feel like. And then I would argue that those feelings of happiness you get from validation from your weight are really short-lived, like candy. You have a really quick piece of sugar and it's a quick hit and then it's over very quickly. But really amazing experiences. I know that we all differ in what our experiences are, but I feel happiest when I'm truly connecting with people and when I'm having an experience of connection either with people or with nature or with my dog. It's like feeling really connected and present in the moment with something that feels very enjoyable. Such as when I was on vacation a few weeks ago and I was biking around Miami, and just biking under palm trees and going to the beach and running through a flock of birds and eating edamame with my friend on the beach as we talked about nonsense and listened to the waves, that felt like pure joy to me. That felt happy. And that had nothing, absolutely 0% to do with what I look like. I don't remember thinking at one point any thought about my body that made me happy. If anything, thoughts about my body on that day made me less happy. Being like, of course I had thoughts about my body that day. I'm still a human being. Of course I have self-conscious thoughts sometimes, or like, oh, I wonder what I look like. But it's more of just a worry, a little nuisance. It didn't really help me at all. What helped me was just being present, connected in the moment. I want you to dig deep, think about the last time that you felt happy and true happiness, something that felt long-lived, something that you remember, that's stained in your memory, that you maybe relive. I know we all do this, so don't judge me. Don't think I'm weird, but you have a really good day, you have really good moments, and you replay them in your mind over and over again. If I'm the only one that does that, I guess I'm weird. But those type of memories, those types of long-lasting, pure bliss, pure joy, pure love, connection memories, I'm guessing it had nothing to do with your weight. And I want you to see how that differs from what your eating disorder tells you and the motivations you have to keep on restricting, to keep justifying purging, to keep even justifying keeping binging and purging in your life. Because take all the like body image stuff aside, some people aren't even binging and purging because they want to have this perfect body. They're just binging and purging because they feel like it's the only thing that brings them joy. I was talking to a client who was in a really rough space the other day, and she was discussing how she felt like, I don't really see the point in trying, because binging and purging feels like it's the only happiness that I have. It's the only thing that I look forward to. And if that's the case, if you really do feel that way, then my friend, you need to start trying to have experiences. Even if you don't feel like it, you have to start trying to put yourself out there, because binging and purging is such a false pleasure. It's not, it's so short-lived. It's not that satisfying. It's just a mix of chemicals and habits and things that are keeping you numb from what could be really amazing in your life. And it's okay that you feel that way. Don't judge yourself for that. But I want you to know that it's like you're living in a cave right now, and that cave has been lying to you, telling you that this is as good as it's going to get. And once you break up with that cave, once you get outside of that cave, you're going to find a whole world of things that make you so much happier than bulimia ever did. So if you really do feel that way, if at the end of this podcast you feel like, no, it actually does make me happy, I want to invite you, even though you might disagree with me, even though you might feel resistant or maybe even angry at me for saying these things, I want to say it anyway. So I'm sorry. Your idea of happiness could be wrong. It's all subjective anyway, right? Because we all have our own opinions. Everything I say is an opinion. It's a thought. So, my definition of happiness is not correct. It's just my definition of happiness. But your definition of happiness is your definition of happiness. But I want to argue and offer with you that your definition of happiness could actually be much smaller than what it could be. And there's actually much more happiness available to you on the other side of bulimia recovery. So I hope this resonates. I hope this makes sense. But if you were having trouble believing that, it's not worthwhile to give up bulimia, to give up restriction, I want you to think about that question. When was the last time you felt truly happy? You felt pure joy. You burst out laughing. You felt just bliss, felt love, you felt, and maybe it'd be better, instead of describing it with words, describe it with feelings. So when was the last time you felt warm and fuzzy? You felt like your heart was almost bursting with joy, and yet it was almost so amazing of a feeling that it hurt a little bit. Like every time I look at my dog, or the most cutest thing in the world, when I see my boyfriend cuddling my dog, my heart wants to break with happiness. It's like a painful emotion, because it just feels such a love, and it's the most adorable thing I've ever seen, and I just can't handle it. That is like what I feel like true happiness is. It's almost so amazing that you don't want it to end, and the idea of it ending is almost painful. So when's the last time you felt like that? And did that have anything to do with how you looked, what you weighed, how good you were with food that day, or anything to do with food? I mean, food is good. Food is a part of life. Food is enjoyable. I am not going to say that food isn't an experience in life that you share with other people. But even when you share really good memories with people, was it really the food that was creating the happiness? Or was it the connection you felt with other people? The joy that you felt with other people over bonding with that food? It wasn't necessarily the food. It was sharing it together that was the experience. So think about that question. When's the last time you felt truly happy? And why did that make you so happy? What was it? And can you try to get more of that in your life? Anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. I think that's a good way to stop the episode. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, there are plenty more episodes. Please give it a rating and review if you really liked it. I hope you have an enjoyable weekend. I hope you get to experience pure happiness this weekend. And I hope at the very least you challenge that eating disorder voice. Because if you answer this question truthfully, I hope you'll find that there is some falseness in what your eating disorder voice is telling you, and that it doesn't add up, and you've been getting a shitty deal, basically. And it's time you get what you actually want in life, which is much more happiness than bulimia could ever offer you. Okay, never give up on yourself, my friend. Bye.